wheat is the king of grains. And there's basically two types of wheat. There is hard wheat and there's soft wheat. Hard wheat is a high protein, low moisture wheat that is necessary when making yeasted breads. You must have that protein content to form the stretchy substance called gluten that is very unique to the wheat family. It's important that you have this higher protein wheat that hard wheat gives you, so that as this gluten develops and the yeast feeds on the wheat, it produces carbon dioxide gas, and this stretchy strands of protein capture this gas and allows the bread to rise. So hard wheat, again, is this high protein, low moisture type of wheat that is necessary when making yeasted breads. Soft wheat, on the other hand, is a high moisture, low protein type of wheat that is excellent when making cakes, cookies, muffins, anything that doesn't use yeast. And we'll talk more about soft wheat later and how to incorporate it and substitute it into any cake, cookie, muffin recipe that you may be wanting to change from white flour to freshly milled flour. But hard wheat is your choice for yeast breads. Now, in the hard wheat type, there are two varieties, two basic varieties. There's hard red and there's hard white. Hard red is going to be a little more fibrous. It's an older variety of wheat, a little more fibrous, a little more flavor. I love the flavor of hard red wheat for most of my baking, but then hard white is a much milder flavor wheat, just little bland for some, in my opinion, but there's places where I want bland. There's places where I don't want the flavor of the bread to dominate. Where is that? Pizza dough. I want to taste the toppings on the pizza, not necessarily the bread. Garlic rolls. Breads that I might fill with, we make a Reuben bread and a sausage bread, all in our recipe collection. Those types of breads, I want the filling and the topping to be the dominant flavor. So that's where I might use hard white. For my day in and day out bread, my preference is to use 2 parts red wheat, 1 part white wheat, or half and half. The white wheat does tend to give a little more softness to the bread because it's a little less fibrous, but the red wheat gives you that great flavor. Don't be afraid of the flavor of red wheat. A lot of people think, oh, my family's used to white bread, so maybe I better go with the white wheat. But a lot of families find they love the flavor of the red wheat. And like I said, it is a little more fibrous, so a little more cleansing to the system. But either one or some of both makes a great option for getting started. I usually recommend to people, if you can afford to get both, I would always buy some container of red wheat and a container of white wheat to get started, because then you can make anything you want, the flavor that you want it. So that's our wheat: hard wheat, soft wheat for pastries, hard wheat for your yeasted breads, red wheat, white wheat. Now here at Bread Becker's, we sell our grains in 3 different type of packaging. For those of you that are going to make this your lifestyle, which we hope you will, we sell all of our grain packaged in 6-gallon food grade buckets. We package the grain with carbon dioxide, put a lid on it, and that way it is completely guaranteed to be bug free. The buckets keep out any pests that are the enemies of grain, which the 3 enemies are rodents or things that eat grain, moisture, very prevalent here in the southeastern United States. You may be in a drier climate, but nonetheless, you don't want moisture getting to your grain. And then bugs, the little grain moths and some of those other pests that really love grain that can be attracted to grain. So that's why we package it in these buckets so that it is moisture proof. A rodent could chew through this, but they don't know what's in there. They don't know what they're missing. And then bugs. As long as you keep a good lid on your grain, then it is protected. Now, we package our grain in these buckets We put carbon dioxide gas in there, which leaves no residue, but that's how we can guarantee that it is bug-free and you won't get bugs in there if you keep the lid on. Now the lid that is packaged on this bucket is we pound it on and you have to pry it off, and it's pretty difficult to get on and off. So early on, years ago when I first started, we discovered gamma lids. And what we do is we'll take the lid that's packaged with the bucket, because it's cheaper that way, and we replace it with this gamma lid. It's a two-part system. So you just take the lid off, press the rim onto the bucket, press it down, and then now you have a lid with threads that can easily screw on and off. You can get in and out of this bucket and keep it closed nicely down. Kids can go in and out and close that lid tightly down. Once you put the gamma lid on the bucket, it's pretty much there to stay, but you don't have to keep buying gamma lids every time you buy a bucket. Just when you buy a new package of grain, just pour it in your bucket that has the lid on it. So for my use and just to help things, especially with children that may be getting your grain, or even just so I can just look at the lid, I have a bucket of red wheat and a bucket of white wheat. So I have a red lid on my red wheat and a white lid on my white wheat. And so that makes it easy. And we have other colors of gamma lids here too. But this just makes it very, very easy for getting in and out of that bucket, but then ensuring that this lid can be tightly closed so no moisture, bugs, or rodents get in there. So that's our 6-gallon buckets. For those of you that may be a little overwhelmed, and this 6-gallon bucket does hold 42 pounds of grain in wheat, and that will make about 60 loaves of bread. So you've got a lot of bread making here, but it stores forever. Remember that. Wheat, as long as it's kept dry and bug-proof, rodent-proof, this grain is just as nutritious today as it will be next week, next month, next year, 10 years from now, 3,000 years from now. Until you mill this grain into flour, it is storable. So that is the wonderful thing about grains. It is the perfect storable food. And grains and beans, seeds, are the most nutrient-dense food that God has given us. So again, makes a perfect storable food. Won't lose its nutritional value till you mill it into flour, and then those nutrients begin to oxidize. Once the bread is baked, nutritional loss is minimal. So keep your grain whole and intact until you're ready to use it. That's what we're all about here at Bread Becker's, and that's kind of the whole premise of milling your own flour when you're ready to use it. Yes, it tastes great. Yes, you won't lose, no, you won't lose the fiber and some nutrients, but it is completely storable, left whole and intact. Now also, we package grain down in 2-pound bags. If you want just a small amount of a grain to try, or if you just don't have a large family like I do, then this may be the perfect size for you. Or we do have these wonderful 1-gallon pails, and these hold about 7 pounds of most of our grains and beans. There's a few things like rolled oats that only can fit 4 pounds in here, but it's about 7 pounds of grain, particularly wheat. So this may be a great option for you. These lids don't need any extra other lid. These come right on and off, and they have a nice indentation here, so several pails can stack up nicely in the pail. So 6-gallon bucket, 1-gallon pail, or a 2-pound bag. Just remember, you do not want to put your 2-pound bag just in your pantry like this on your shelf. It will attract pests and bugs and things that can get in there and just kind of ruin your grain. So if you're going to buy the 2-pound bags, maybe get a pail. This will hold 3 of these 2-pound bags. Get a pail or some type of container to put it in, or keep it in your refrigerator or freezer. Also, since I mentioned that, there's a lot out there, people say, oh, you have to put your grain in the freezer or something to kill those bugs. You don't from Bread Becker's. It's already been done. That's what the carbon dioxide gas does for your grain. So you don't need to put this grain in the freezer or anything like that, or whether you buy it in the pail or the 2-pound bag. The only reason you would want to put this in the freezer is just don't put this baggie on your pantry unprotected. So anyway, that's why we recommend pails or buckets mostly. And if you are going to buy a baggie, then just put it in some type of container to protect it. So that's our grain. Hard wheat for yeasted breads. Hard red is a little more flavorful. Hard white is a little more mild in flavor. But both make great yeasted breads, and hard wheat is what you need to make breads leavened with yeast.